Check, check. Mic check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. All right, I ain't even going to hold you. Let's get straight into it. So I'm going to read an exercise out the book. The book that I'm reading from is The Western Way, A Practical Guide to the Western Mystery Tradition. All right, so the exercise that I'm going to read, and I'm probably not going to read it all because, in my opinion, the author, it's a dope exercise, but I feel like the author kind of starts to over-explain it and using too many words that really ain't called for. So I'm gonna start reading it, and then at some point I'll probably just stop and just explain it in my own way. But I know some people like word for word what's in the book, so I'm trying to have the camera on the word so that you can pause it and read it if that's what you want to do. All right, so exercise 6, meeting the gods. And just remember, you know what I'm saying, it's not so much about the word for word instruction is why I'm reading it. I'm reading it more so for the concept, because it's the concept that you can apply to your own thing in your own way. All right. So anyway, meeting the gods. In this exercise, you are going to attempt to establish a rapport with an otherworld character. Begin with a figure whom you feel sympathy. It need not be one of those listed in the gazetteer. It can, for example, just as easily be a saint as a god or hero. But whoever you choose, you should begin by reading as much about him or her as possible. Become familiar with his story, and, if you can, any sites, especially associated with him. Where possible, indication that this have been given in the gazetteer. If there are no sites, try to think what kind of place you would expect to find him at. By a river or a lake, on a mountain or hillside, in woodland, or on cliffs overlooking the sea. But always remember that he or she can be anywhere, in your own front room as well as in a wild and desolate place in the open. Your otherworld character may be male or female. When we use the male pronoun, it is for clarity only. Begin to use your imagination to visualize how your chosen character would look, how he would be dressed, what color hair or eyes he might have, and so on. Gradually build up a picture in your mind. Draw it if it helps, but take your time. These things do not come easily, and you have all the time in the world at your disposal. When you feel that you have a good visual image that can be called to mind at a moment's notice without effort, go to the site you have previously selected. It may be necessary to go there quite often to begin with until you get the feel of it. Preferably, it should be deserted, apart from any friend you may take with you. But if this is not possible, do not worry. All you have to do is sit or stand quite casually and bring to mind the character you have been building up over the past weeks. Do not be surprised or disappointed if nothing happens at first. These things take time. You may, if you wish, make up a chant containing the name of the character you have chosen, repeating it silently or aloud as circumstances permit. Or you might read over some familiar passage or a poem you have written or enjoyed which is to do with the subject in question. All right, now. After a time, you should begin to get flashes of insight about the character in question, who may even begin to speak to you. But if you have taken your time building up the image in your mind, this will seem quite natural. Because there is always an exchange between inner and outer worlds. Some of what you have put into your visualization will have been supplied from the inner reality, and this will make the image all the more vital. You should find that after a time you build up a consistent rapport with your chosen subject, and that he will begin to guide you further into the realm of which you are a part. This can be one of the most rewarding experiences open to us today, and is in fact an exact correlative of the way in which our ancestors worshipped. In this way, you are establishing a bridge or gateway between the worlds, which will ever after be open to you. However, a word of warning: many energies are unleashed in this way, which have been unrepresented for centuries. Earth energy, native wisdom links, and ancestral potencies, which bring with them remembrances that can be helpful to our present time. While it is perfectly allowable to make contact with the vital energies, there is always a danger that unregenerate forms may emerge also. These have to be allowed to depart and should not be held on to for the sake of native traditional old times. Many of those old times were not good times. Despite memories of the lost age of gold, life was too near the survival point for highly evolved energies to manifest. Those energies and their representative God forms, which can still operate, have been listed in this chapter. No element of pagan worship need necessarily be applied to them. Meditating their energies is, however, of prime importance. All right, so I kind of think I could stop right there. Let me still just show this last page. So if you want to read it for yourself, you can pause it and you know exactly what the author says. So to sum it all up though, so basically it's about, as it's titled, meeting the gods. All right, so let's just start by just saying, for an example, let's use an energy that, if you're a beginner for starters, use an energy that you'll be comfortable with. So you could pick like a deceased loved one. What is that? Oh, from my light. All right, my bad. I was looking at something else, should be going on. All right, so anyway, yeah, you can start with like a deceased loved one or something, or a deceased pet. You know what I'm saying? Something that has transitioned over to the spirit realm, that you are familiar with the energy. All right, that'll probably be easiest and best for a beginner, before you just go straight to jump into contacting the gods. I would say start with the ancestor, right? So say it's your uncle. So you can build up the image in your mind of your uncle. So you are familiar with his energy. So that makes the job of the imagination like way easier, because these are things you're already familiar with and that you can call to mind easily. So when the author talks about going to the site, if possible, what he's talking about is, if it's a location that has a connection with the image that you're using. So say if your uncle was a fisherman and he was always on the lake, right? He was always on the fishing bank. So then a good place, a good idea would probably be to go to the fishing bank. Go to a river or something, you know what I'm saying, where a lot of fishing takes place. Or even better, if you know the exact place that he used to go and the spot that he liked to be at the most. You know what I'm saying? That would be even better. But it could be anywhere. So it's like if it's not a place that you're familiar with like that, it don't matter because it can be anywhere. But you will want to go to that place and then bring up that image in your mind. And this is how you're trying to make contact. You'll be pulling up that image in your mind with the intention to contact this energy. As the author says, these things take time, so don't trip that nothing happens on the first few times or something. You know what I'm saying? It's being consistent. All right. So eventually, you should receive some sort of interaction with this energy. All right, so that could be you might hear a voice, a word, right? You might just get a flash of intuition. Whenever you're meditating on the visualization, you may see the image in your mind as you're meditating on it. The image in your mind may start to take on a life of its own. You know what I'm saying? This happens like when you're tuning into your imagination, like, because this is when you're communicating with spirits, because that's what this is, just to be blunt about it. All right. So when you're communicating with spirits, 9 times out of 10, in my experience, when they communicate back with you, as far as in words or through your imagination, whatever, like, it's just that. Like 9 times out of 10, it'll be taking place in your imagination, in your mind, right? Like, that's where my conversations take place, right? In my mind. Because even if we crossing over into the astral realm, right? This is your mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not taking my body over there and doing shit, right? So my body is still, you know what I'm saying? My body is asleep. You know what I'm saying? This is my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, these things happen in your mind, like telepathically or whatever. So that's an idea of how that'll happen. But as the author says, it's going to take practice. And you kind of got to stick with it and kind of see. So another example would be, and Brother Panic is the one that really made this just crystal clear and make sense for me, because he just put it in regular layman's terms. So how you can contact the ancestors or what to help with communicating is, it's kind of like, just like the author is saying, but also if there's things, use the things such as the old habits, right? activities that they enjoyed, certain things they like to do. So like my mother for example, on her birthday last year, I went to the store, I bought a 20-ounce Coca-Cola because that was her favorite drink, Coca-Cola. It was in the refrigerator, she drank it every day. And I bought a pack of Newports because she was a big cigarette smoker, heavy on the cigarettes, right? And so as I go on for contact, what I did was I cracked the Coke, right? I invited her once. I invited her in my energy field. I just invited her. So the way that you really want to do this shit is go about it like the same way that you would go about it if you was doing whatever with a friend, right? I'll touch more on that in a second, but let me finish my thought, what I was saying. So I made the libation, you know what I'm saying? I poured a little Coke out, a little shot of it, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like back in the day, you know, when the old cats would pour the little shot of beer out on the ground for the dead homies, right? Or even still to this day, we'll sit around a table and we'll take a shot to our deceased loved ones on their birthday or something like that, right? Or as soon as they pass, you know, we gather up and pour up and take a shot to them. It's a libation. It's all the same shit. An offering, call it whatever. It's all the same shit. So then I just lit the cigarette. You know what I'm saying? This is a favorite cigarette. So I lit the cigarette and I let the cigarette burn as I began to talk and to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Most of the time, it's just going to seem like a one-sided conversation. Don't just expect to start talking and then someone just start talking back. It might happen like that, but typically it's going to be it's going to seem like it's a one-sided conversation and that you just talking to yourself. But as long as you know this, know in your mind, know in your heart that, you know what I'm saying? It works. So anyway, just giving that as an example. So let's move on. So another point towards the end of the exercise, another point that the author touches on is about shutting down contact whenever you're done. All right. This is something that I've preached over and over on this channel, is hitting the off switch. So when I talk about you want to treat it the same way that as if you was really communicating with a friend that was there in your presence. You know what I'm saying? Like whenever we done and whenever we depart from a friend and whenever we ready to go our separate ways, typically it's always a moment of closure, right? All right, man, shit, I'ma holler, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming through. Woot to woot, right? Goodbye. You know what I'm saying? So it's that closure. That's the type of closure that the author is stressing at the end of that exercise. The importance of closing down your ritual. Yeah. Anyway, so, and I think that's pretty much it. Ways to go about closing. Let's see if I can read it quick. What the author say. I'll give you some of his words when he talks about closing this shit down. La to severe such excessive content, small glass, and breathing, imagine, breath. With these precautions, my reward and great. Alright, I don't know. You can just pause it and read it for real because... Alright, there we go. Something like that. Finally, always remember to dismiss your contact after you spent however long you desire in his or her company. This can be easily done by some formula of your own devising, but never leave the impression of your chosen figure behind, as this can be disturbing to other sensitive visitors and may make the continuation of the rapport you have begun to establish difficult. All right. So even there, he's just saying it can be done by a formula of your own devising. So the same thing is pretty much what I was saying. Just close down the conversation. If you want to go in more of a ceremonial fashion, you know what I'm saying, you could do something. If you had the candles lit, you can blow out the candles, say a closing prayer or whatever. Like whatever your thing is. If you are already familiar with closing down a ritual, then you can just do that. Do whatever you do, really. So anyway, this video actually went longer than I expected, but that shit happens sometimes. So again, the book that I'm reading from, which I'm going to read some more exercise from it in other videos. Hopefully I can make those a lot shorter though. I know niggas' attention span is short as fuck. So anyway, I'm out.